Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the new world champion, the Terran in the blue from Team Lakewood. It's Clem. But he's up against the player ranked #1 in the world by Dark. In the red, it's the final boss. It's Dark. A best of 5 Terran versus Zerg showdown between the impeccable micro of Clem and the unmitigated chaos that is Dark, and starting things off with a strong bit of economic aggression at the forward gold bases, Dark, which I have to appreciate because I can use it to not so subtly segue into my own economic aggression. And beg you for likes and subscribes. And Jimmy, what are we? 1,438 likes on this video, on this cast. And I'll cast another one as long as we can stave off Dark's retirement a little bit longer. And I'll probably do it anyways. But thank you for watching. Hopefully you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. The forward gold, much easier to deal with Reapers than when they're on the outside of the mineral wall looking in. But still a real pain to defend. And Clem is not pulling any punches. He started with 2 racks Reaper in the base. So in a position that it's almost certainly not going to be scouted by any overlords. So the Reaper count will multiply at a surprisingly rapid pace, considering they are not Zerg, but the Queen finally comes out to tend to her flock. Roach Warren's already on the way. Very important to point out, the outside of the base has access to a rich Vespene geyser, and that extra stimulus package of gas can lead itself directly to a Ravager play. And, oh, the Queen's... Wait. The grenade bounces the Queen from outside the mineral wall. Another Queen coming down to provide mostly moral support. As definitely not as agile as needed to be. But now the Queen getting hunted. The Frenchman knows something about assassinating queens. And here we go. 2 drones down. The Queen right behind it. Gets an inject with her dying breath. And, well, this has... It feels like this has already preemptively dealt with the base. But the roaches come out. Bounces him with the grenade, but he's coming in for more. He's sacrificing the Reapers for drone kills, but he gets 7 drones and a Queen. Oh no, and a Marine is on the way. And somehow he gets out with 2 of the Reapers. So now Dark must do damage. Just that extra 2 or 3 Reapers added on from the second barracks has been more than enough to overwhelm the token defenses of a single Queen. And the roaches are out for revenge. But unfortunately, here on Dynasty, very difficult to actually get up this ramp. The bunker is not quite done, but the grenade buys a little bit more time. The bunker will complete, and there is an overlord in position. So Dark likely thinking of some Ravager plays, or at least keeping tabs on things. Has to be so careful, though. Here comes a Ravager. Things are escalating. And the grenade's always nearly perfect from Clem. Locks onto one of the roaches. Finally, the Reaper goes down, but the Ravager left all alone. Naked and afraid. As the Cyclone just kind of casually dances around it. Takes a few extra hits. The Overlord pretends nothing ever happened. A single roach. Looks like this isn't its first time here, based on the SCVs. Though he's killed a grand total of 0, which is not very many. Clem has... there we are. First blood. The first SCV dies, and it looks like Dark is going to content himself with spewing out a corrosive bile every now and again at that mineral. Hey, there's no wall... Hello? Hello, Border Patrol. There are illegal aliens trying to get into our base. The roaches get in successfully. An awkward exchange at the natural as the SCVs are scrambling to dodge the single Ravager, and Dark is still hurting economically. It is still a very tough spot for him. But overall, well, he's made a mountain out of this particular molehill, where he got completely shut down in the initial counter. But he's committed to so many Ravagers that it must be respected. And oh, he gets the... He uses his dark mind tricks again and gets the supply depot and the Cyclone, 2 for the price of 1. Covering his retreat with those corrosive biles. And the pillars of acid will keep the Banshee back for now, as there's just so many little things happening, even Even Clem is struggling to get the... Did he kill the Cyclone over here, too? He's killed... Yes! This Ravager killed a Cyclone. It has 9 kills, and somehow it's going to escape persecution by the Banshee. The rest of the Ravagers coming in. And while this map is, in a conventional game, heavily favored for Terran, they have about a 2 and 3 win rate on it. I made sure to check so I would have the numbers right after the last time. But players like Dark have a tendency to skew it and give Zerg some hope. And this is certainly not your standard fare here. In Zerg versus Terran, as the Ravagers are just looking over the top of the minerals and frowning upon the SCVs. Again, Clem is forced back. Dark is taking a 4th hatchery, still going to work. Now there's a siege tank, a cloak banshee coming in, and it appears this is not the Ravager from earlier. Kind of traded places with him. But finally, all this early aggression will be, I'm not going to say cleaned up, but at least swept under the rug. Double Evo chamber as both players have stabilized and consolidated their economies in much the same way I don't consolidate my words very well. Another Ravager hunted down. That was the main offender. Clem gets revenge. And, of course, if there are no queens here... Susan, I told you to stay at the natural. What even is the natural on this map, Brenda? It doesn't make any sense. Is it the second base? Is it the one down the ramp? It's clearly the one down the ramp. We all know that, Susan. Read a book. I never learned how to read. 6 drones dead to the Banshee. And the corrosive biles will continue until morale improves. Dark has killed 10 SCVs in total. What? There's always one roach. I've never seen anyone truly embrace the names of units like Dark does. Those roaches scurrying into places they should never be. The Ravagers just terrorizing the mineral lines. The Queens regally stomping across the field like a elephant with a dress on. Not sure if that one really fits. Lair on the way at whatever random base Dark has chosen. Also, very important to note that it's 9 minutes in, nearly 9 minutes in, and the lair isn't even done. So, a lot of the times we'll see a hive by 9 minutes. In a more standard, less exciting early game. But instead, Dark barely finishing that tier 2. But it's not like Clem is far ahead on any count. He hasn't even finished the armor. He's finishing 1-1 maybe 5 or 6 seconds before Dark in this count. And now he's finally got his double medevac. But the early back and forth has certainly slowed things down. But now the economies are ramping up. Dark, well, you can see the Mule Canyons there. Driving a spike into Dark's income lead. But they should be evening out momentarily as Clem will take his 4th base down the center. Dark is taking a 5th hatchery over to the 3 o'clock location. The creep continues to spread across the map. And overall, the game seems to be evening out, which I don't think is what Dark wants. He wants to max out and hit Clem. Well, ideally, he's looking as many different directions as possible, because that increases the likelihood at least one of them will do critical damage. Also important to note that the mineral fields, the golden minerals, are going to be mining out. They've already mined out for Dark, which is another he's getting the hive at the most exposed location. So that could certainly be a very expensive sticking point. Technically, adding a layer and a hive each adds 500 HP and +1 armor to your buildings. To your hatcheries. Now, there was like a few months in there where Cyril was actually upgrading all of his bases to like lair and hive, I think, to increase the survivability. But it's just such an spending gas to just make a unit take like 6 more Marauder hits, or at least that's what it feels like, then doesn't really pay off in the long run, it seems. Well, the double drop shut down. Banshee. Where is that Banshee? I swear there was a Banshee around here. Oh, still patrolling. 10 kills. Burrow's done now. And Clem taking a 5th base. Drop again, in position. Adrenal glands the moment the hive finishes. Banelings get all... Tell your friends what happened here. Banelings get all but one of those Marines. And he's got an ultra-less cavern on the way. So Dark is going big, or he'll be going home here. Clem already has the ghosts on the way. He's building up the iron bank of command centers. But he's not quite there yet. He doesn't have a huge amount of money, and especially no gas in the bank. So Dark will have an opportunity. The only thing we're missing here are the Nidus Worms, where using those to bounce around the map in such a rapid fashion becomes almost impossible for the Terrans to efficiently deal with it. And their Vipers, +3 Carapace, is in production. +2 melee as well. Clem is finishing up his +2 infantry armor, though. So he's going to be in a pretty comfortable position with his armor. They're both maxed out. Both with some minerals and not too much gas in the bank. Whoop. Somehow misses every single corrosive bile. Actually, not that hard to accomplish. Surprisingly small. Well, some of that bioarmy just going to walk home. The creep spread looking good, but Clem has done a good job of keeping it from encroaching on his doorstep. After that hectic early game, been a relatively quiet mid game, and we've already skipped into the late game, which the quick descriptors, the early game are any units that don't really take tier 2 tech. You got your Marines and your Cyclones up against your Lings, Roaches, and Ravagers. Tier 2, you're looking at like Roaches with speed, maybe throw some Nidus in, or even up to Hydras. And then, late game, we've got huge economies. We've got maxed out with maybe some money in the bank. But we're not at the point where we're cutting the map in half and trying to figure out whether we're going to cower it out and call it a draw. But here we're going into the extreme late game compositions. There's a Nidus network and 5 command centers on the way, as both of them prepare to... Ooh, at least Clem, oh, he tried to repair, which, that was something. Not enough. The siege tank will be taken down. Another path into the base is opened up. Corrosive Bell changelings. I'm sure Clem, not a huge enthusiast of those, considering recent events, but... there isn't an overwhelming amount. There's only 6 overs here, so just enough to make sure he always has some way to spot the cloak ghosts. Nidus in the main base, but Marauders on point to deal with it. Just 1 Nidus for now. 3 Ultras in production. Whips out a wave of corrosive bile. Rains down. Oh, but those big cauldrons of bile make a massive target for the ghost to snipe off. The command center's creating the choke point here. Little alleyway between where you can stuff some Marauders in. Maybe there were some burrowed Zerglings, almost certainly considering who's playing. The Ultras are waiting on the southern side of things. Parasitic Bomb on the Medevacs getting about maximum damage. A single Viking. And at this point we realize, wait a second, there's actually no anti-air. Orbital, well, planetary's on the way. The Zerglings will get cleaned up. Ultras are streaming into the base, though. Lings and Banes trying to roll in. Might get a few SCVs. Just clearing up the former gold base. Now pretty much mined out. I guess there's a couple mineral patches left. But the Ultra's just going to stand there and let the ghosts line up their shots. Meanwhile, the rest of the army is to the north. Are there any Vipers nearby? There are 4 or 5 siege tanks in range. And plenty of ghosts ready to line things up. 25 more Banelings and 56 more Zerglings. Another flood of Ultras, Lings, and Banes ready to roll through. And Clem is still on 10. Dark has 8,500 minerals in the bank. He has 67 larvae. So we could very well see triple-digit Zerglings. Overwhelming. Well, the Ultras just chewing through some rocks. Surprisingly tasty. Ah, yes, those are Terran rocks, so they're filled with salt. Meanwhile, corrosive biles. Dark, probably the best player in the world at making Ravagers useful at all times in the game. Not just the early game pressure, but all the way up to late game, picking off siege tanks and liberators. The banelings are rolling in from all sides here. The tanks don't know which way to look. The ultras are stuffed in between the command centers, but the planetary fortress is ripped away. The ghosts finding a lot of targets and will clean up the rest of the army, but gets another orbital. Clem not able to lift it in time, and 20 SCVs go down. An objective accomplished. 8 more ultras on the way for Dark. 78 more Zerglings. He's back at 200 supply, though he's gonna need some overlords in order to repeat that process, as he lost a bunch of those as well. Clem building 8 SCVs at a time to replace his economy. But Dark has now opened up quite a lead. And in this war of attrition, actually being able to deny multiple bases is the key to victory. Zerg is not going to be cost effective, but just being effective in... Ooh. He doesn't need to lose less resources if he denies Clem an entire extra base or two. So far, so okay. It hasn't gone great, but not terrible either. And Parasitic Bomb onto the already softened up Medivacs. Clem not microing away. He's looking on both sides. The Ultras get sniped out, but the Parabombs will almost kill all of the Medivacs. And the Ghosts being cloven in twain. Most of the Ghosts taken down. Medivac comes in and gets them out of there just barely in time to save, but maybe salvage some sort of defense. But Clem is down to 133 supply, and the Ultras are at the gates. And Nidus Worm at the back, drawing some fire. He is attacking up a ramp into Ghosts and Siege tanks, but there's just so much Zerg. And now Zerglings coming in from the back. I'm not, well, Dark smells blood in the water, to which I'm a little confused because there's no water here, but he goes all the way into the main. But Clem still had half a dozen Ghosts, 4 Ghosts, and Medivacs to back up the Marines. And the Ultras were tripping over their fellow Zerg in order to deal with this. So the problem is, since Dark didn't go for the outlying bases, that means Clem still has income. He still has economy. He still has all these siege tags. So Dark just went for the throat there. And I don't think he quite landed it. Which, well, there's a couple more Ultras coming in. Needs to line up those snipes. Such a dangerous composition. If those Ultras close the distance, they can easily interrupt the Ghost snipes. Another army to the north. No snipes from Clem means that the Ultra still cleaving through. Gonna try to get on top of those Ghosts. Clearly right-clicked on him, but obliterated by siege tanks. The main base, though, in the production as Dark. An eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind. But Ultras work a lot better by smell than Ghosts do. As Dark is plummets down to 120 supply. But Clem even further at 100. Wow, he's really dragging him down with him. Which, Dark still should have the income, but I think Clem just dropped some mules. Here come the queens. It always comes down to us, doesn't it, Brenda? Yes, of course, Karen. They didn't let Zerg have any basic anti-error support units, so we have to fill like 17 different roles. I like role-playing. Shut up, Karen. Sorry. Banelings, Zerglings, and now there's just not enough siege tanks left over. As Dark is refilling that supply just a bit quicker than Clem is able to. He doesn't have access to enough minerals. He takes out one hatchery, but Dark has reopened the income lead, and the supply gap continues to widen. A Ghost Marauder drop. Incredibly dangerous. And will have to be chased down. The rest of the army, Clem knows this is the best it's going to get. The army supplies are near even. 100, well, that just went up a bit, to 99. But the Zerglings at the back, there's a couple tanks in the main, but it's wide open now. There's no wall, there's no depots, there's nothing stopping Dark from taking apart the production. And I think Clem just hasn't been able to keep up with the pressure. And Dark may very well take this game. That hive, which I thought would be a sticking point, ended up being perfectly smooth. And has survived easily throughout this game, as Dark has been the aggressor the majority of the time. Dropping a mule to repair his add-ons. Scanning to make sure the Zerglings can't burrow. And Clem still with 130 supply. How many orbitals left? He's down to 5, which is, he's lost 4, is 6, 8 command centers, something like that. Only a few of which were planetaries, but here comes Dark from both sides. Still a lot of bio here, but the Banelings are rolling in and forcing Clem to split up, which means the Ultras have a field day with it. And I don't think there's any stopping him anymore. He may actually kill the hive awkwardly, but that won't stop the tide. Dark takes game number 1. And he does it in pretty convincing fashion, keeping the pressure on from the start, and even arguably with a disadvantage to start things off. Being in that awkward position where you have less workers than a Terran and you kind of need to rely on 1 or 2 Ravagers just poking and prodding. It's one of those scenarios that you're teetering on the edge of a cliff where you lose a couple of units and you can just, well, it spirals very quickly. But he's able to hold on to it, and that heads us into the next game with Dark up 1-0. Oceanborn. Clem not able to find... I think that's the advantage of keeping the pressure on like that. Clem's main strength is once he gets those medevacs rolling, the multitasking, the cost efficiency of the army, second to none. But when you keep punching him in the face before he can recover, even if it hurts your hand, it hurts his face more. Like and subscribe for more profound analogies like that. Everyone has a plan until they get a corrosive bile in the mouth. Well, I mean, probably true, but yeah. First Reaper doing its thing. Its thing being very annoying and occasionally killing drones. Last game, it was straight up killing most of the early economy. But this time around, just the single Reaper. Third hatch. Is this a not quite gasless, but a significantly delayed gas? So that means much later Zergling speed out of Dark. And Clem! Cyclones? Something fresh here. Definitely a swerve from your early Hellions. That's the beauty of the reactored factory, is just having a reactored factory gives you most of the options the factory has to offer. And the Cyclone's a much stronger choice directly against the Queens. Though not as strong against massed up Zerglings. Yes, that lock-on has quite a cooldown. Well, not much of a cooldown, but enough of a cooldown to... Oh, no. Not even close. Do you scan? Thought about it. I don't think he had the energy at the moment. And Dark has a lot of Overlords just hanging out, because you're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to just make Cyclones. Though Dark has put him close enough to the Pervert Pillar. Not... Okay, well... And now he's building Hellions behind, but just... I don't know if Clem did the early Cyclones because he realized how vulnerable Dark would be with the Overlords, or just because he saw how late the gas was. But either way, killing 2 Overlords significantly reduces his ability to deal with this, and then there's no answer to the Reaper Hellion in the natural. Clem finds a tiny opportunity and turns it into a chasm, killing already 3 drones, non-speed Zerglings. Trying to target down a few more drones here. Ambitiously attempts to get out. Looks like another Roach was killed off, and Dark had 41 drones up against 43 SCVs and a 3 Command Center Terran. This is a very awkward spot economically, and unlike the previous game, Clem doesn't need to sit back. He's going to have Stim and Medivacs pretty much by the time Dark shows up at his doorstep. This will be a fully operational Terran defense by the time the Zerg arrive. And the fact the Cyclones are still here means it's a lot harder to just poke and prod with the Ravagers, because they'll just lock on and knock them out. Oh, one very unlucky Marine. But with the Cyclones and now the Stim, able to take down some more. Dark was hiding the Zerglings until this moment, but Clem still microing back. Targets down a Ravager, pulls a few of the boys just to box out, and he may need to pick them up, though a bit of an awkward exchange, and Dark again, the Lord of Chaos, has managed to break through the front lines and still find some damage. 9 SCVs dead, which Clem plummets to a 5-worker lead. Yeah, throughout all this, Clem was still producing SCVs. Dark just went back to drone production. So even though I think Dark got more than you ever could have expected going in with that, it still wasn't enough to bring him back to parity. Now, it's very important to pretend like you did if you're Dark. You can't let Clem smell weakness, because if he realizes to a full extent how far behind you are, there will be no end to the drops until there's an end to you. It's very likely Dark will be able to defend a direct attack, but will he be able to defend Medivacs on multiple angles with superior upgrades on those Marines? Doubtful. +1, and he's going for the missile attacks upgrade, so Dark gonna be relying on the ground here. Roach speed. Armory on the way. Infestation pit and Hydra Den. I think Dark angling towards Hive Tech Lurkers as soon as possible. But Clem has the supply advantage, and he's ramping up his production, bringing everything together. The Queen's in position to try to box out any drops, but everything coming in from one side. He's even brought a couple siege tanks with it. 3 Ravagers. But this is a ridiculously difficult position to dislodge with a minimal amount of Zerg. The Queens are coming down. Without the Queens, I don't think there's any chance of it. But 1-1 is about to finish for Clem. Little does Dark know. He suspects it, but it just got a lot harder. Those weapon upgrades, especially on the Marines, just such a huge deal at grinding through the armor of the Roaches and the Queens. Gonna whip out some corrosive biles, knocks out one of the tanks, gets away with the Ravagers. Looks like there was a Zergling out there. Hive Tech now on the way quite quickly. The Roaches from the north side. Whoop, saves the tank. And Dark, oh, another tank will be saved as well. What a save! As Clem manages to unsiege them just barely in time. But Dark has stabilized somewhat. Clem thrown back. Hive is on the way. Widowmine thrown in. Was gonna try to delay that base, but not happening. Clem now moving out for his 4th. But Dark with the Hive. And instead of Lurkers, I think it's just gonna be Vipers. a low economy option, but one great fight is something you could potentially carry through all the way. As there's so many, there's 9 medevacs and counting. The medevacs for all policy. At some point, Clem will shift into liberators, which is when things get another dimension of complicated for the Zerg, but he's not there yet. 2 Vipers are on the way as the Roach Hydra army comes together. Clem still dancing around at the edge of the creep. Pirouetting with those medevacs. And Dark is nearly maxed out. Now, the army values actually about even. Not that that necessarily demonstrates what each army is worth. As Clem puts all the Terrans together and just crushes through one flank. Though a couple tanks, and 2 more actually coming down the ramp. A bit of an awkward angle for both sides. There's still a lot of Marines underneath. 55 Marines at the moment on the field. And, well, Hydra speed is done. The Vipers, he needs the Vipers. He needs the Vipers. Well, oh my god, he's tearing through everything. You can't just fight that many Marines. Dark is obliterated on the field. The Marines cutting him down. That is not even a close fight there. Clem killing almost twice as many minerals and over twice as much gas. And here come the Vipers. Parasitic Bomb, paramount on those medevacs. But he quarantines the one hit by it immediately. So a lot of the medevacs are vulnerable. Here comes the Bio Ball yet again. Rolling past. Corrosive Bout takes approximately 4 years to land. So we'll look at it next season. The Roach Hydra still growing in number. And the Vipers are on the field, but Clem is already on Ghosts. He's been able to keep the pressure on. What? Let's see. It was a traitor. It was a changeling. Siege tanks can't be changelings. You never know. All right. The Vipers sniped out, but he gets the abducts with their dying breath. And Dark comes up the ramp to try to reclaim. But the army is thinning out. And with the medevac still intact, the bio forces trading near evenly with the Hydras. And it might look good for Dark as long as we take away the supply count. But if we don't, you can really see the story told. The medevacs did not die, which means the next army will have them, and the army after that if it keeps going. And that means Clem has rebuilt a deadly force, whereas Dark is desperately trying to put enough on the field. He's got 11 medevacs now. The Roach Hydra. And are there any Vipers? No. He's trying to draw the tank fire. Looks like Clem mostly targeting those siege tanks. The Queens, just a G. 2 more Gs. 3 Gs for Clem. And that brings us to game 3. All evened up. Pretty comfortable victory for Clem as he's able to get the jump on Dark and carry it through. Dark not finding nearly as much success with that early Roach Ravager as Clem stabilizes. The Cyclones, just a small change with such a large effect as he opts for the early Cyclone play and knocks out 3 Overlords and keeps the pressure on. So, a beautiful choice and an incredibly effective one. Side Delta. One way or another, things will change. As Dark and Clem tied up 1-1. Clem looking a lot more like his usual self. As soon as he gets that momentum, he knows exactly what to do with it. Dark's best chance remains keeping him off balance, so that way he doesn't make Terran look imbalanced. We will see if he's able to accomplish it. Reaper heading across, the usual. Overlords, we'll take a look. He's only committed one Overlord to the other side of the map, which usually keeps the rest safe until the Cyclones just pop up out of nowhere. Picks off one lane. The Lings are pretty much just here to offer a meat shield and protect the early drones before the Queen comes out. This is what we've accepted is the early game. The ritual sacrifice of the Lings. Clem with a very early and confident third command center. Clem dancing that Reaper. Just something to do. It isn't to spam. He doesn't need to impress anyone with his APM. It's just sometimes you've covered everything at home and there's nothing to do but stay busy on the map. Sir? Sir? Young man? Come back here. We need to teach you a lesson. I thought you couldn't read, Susan. Don't get so meta, Brenda. Well, this is a bit rude. Brenda bounces back. There's no real targets at the third base, so the Queens are really the only option as they amble their way across. Finishes off the creep tumor, and Clem just... Okay, well, this is unfortunate. 4 drones in the first line of fire. Another 3. 8 in total now. And the Hellions are still a threat. Trying to double back. The Zerglings splitting the box out. He gets 8 drones, which is very solid. But he does lose all of the Hellions and the Reaper, so there is nothing to keep the creep at bay, at least for now. A Liberator's coming up. The only thing, pretty much the only unit Terran has that can't keep the creep at bay. As sneaking in towards the main. I think Dark will spot it. Indeed he does. But has it actually... There we go. Moving the Spore Crawler into position. And now the ultimate dance. Unsieges the Liberator. Reroutes the Spore Crawler. And the dance of death will continue. 2 evolution chambers. But already, double NG Bay done for Clem. So we will have a solid lead on the upgrades. And we will see which direction Dark is intending to go in just a moment. He hasn't started a Roach Warning yet. So... 1-1. Melee attacking Carapace. Be about 20-30 seconds behind Clem. On the upgrades, Lair should be starting. I'm gonna go with this one. I think it's gonna be this one. Lair, momentarily. Zerglings are chasing down some of the SCVs. Gonna try to draw tank fire in. Yep, gets an SCV or 2 with the friendly fire. Goes with the main. Macro hatch is already on the way. Mass Zergling. That seems to be the ticket here. He's gonna have 5 hatcheries in barely more than 5 minutes. Meanwhile, Clem already moving out with those early siege tanks, as well as the first medevacs. Assume, yes, he already has stim for the Marines. And without Baneling speed, this is a difficult army to dislodge for the Zerg, but it's not so much Terran that he can't just overwhelm it with sheer numbers. But right now, there's little hope of that, as the Zergling count is about equal to the Marines. Queens, enough energy for a few transfuses. The Zerglings will discover the unhappy revelation of the siege tanks jammed behind the rocks. 1-1 is going to be finishing for Clem. And now the Marines are kind of between a rock and a hard place, but the medevacs might be able to keep them intact. Oh, well, actually, get off my creep! So close. Well, the medevacs are driven back for now. Well, one medevac, the other one taken down easily. The Marines butting off a lot more than they could chew. And, well, so here's the issue at the end of the day. Look at the supply. 15 more drones on the way, but Clem is comfortably expanding. Wingbane doesn't really... I mean, it doesn't fill up your supply very quickly compared to Roach Ravager. But the real struggle will be the larva. He's adding on a Hydra Den and an infestation pit in an attempt to fill in a more capable army. Liberator, though, still alive, was waiting for its moment, found an opportunity. Will make things more difficult at this base. The Zerglings surrounding the Marines. And the Lings and Bane still closing it. Liberator taken down. Knocked into the water by the Queens as it attempted the main base yet again. Marines still dropping out on top of the Lings, but they're not that good. As Dark is able to surround them. Hive is on the way. Hydra's being added in. Ooh. Tries to target down some of the Banes. Is mostly so... Oh my god. Clem turns on the aimbot and knocks down pretty much all of the Banelings that got close. A good wall off here. Tries to come around. Wait, he actually just slips into the mineral line. But counterattack easily dispatched. Dark's creep spread looking pretty good. But Clem is the one. Like, if you flip the script a bit, Clem looking a lot more like the Zerg out on the field as he sends attacks up to the north and south. Another army to the north side. Drilling Claws is done. Oh no. And he gets a big slam into the Lings and Banes with the Widow Mine. And now the Hydras are a bit vulnerable. That's not enough Zerglings. Easily takes out the Baneling. Stands his ground against the Lings. And the Hydras are next on the agenda. Guns him down. Another Queen. Random drone. Hydra again. Some more drones. I know the names of all the units. Alright. I figured it out all by myself. And the Queens will deny the visas in the main, as is their royal right, but the damage is already done. Clem up 30 supply, and a Hive is completed for Dark, but it's a long way off having Hive Tech kick in. Clem about to be done with 2-2 against, well, actually Dark finished up his +2 upgrades earlier. So at least he's comparable on that count. And with the Banelings closing in, there's not enough Marines here. They actually connect. Clem losing track of it for a moment. The triple drop with just over 1 drop of Marines left inside, but that's not really the point. Queen's closing in from all sides. Take down the medevac with the Marines in it. Zerglings coming back to defend. And actually, Clem squandering what was once a lead, and now Dark has retaken the supply lead. Now, Clem has command centers back at home. He's already adding on ghosts and +3/+3 upgrades. The Hydras, not quite in range to deal with this. He has the groovy spines, yes, but they're just out of range there. Eight Overlords on the way. Dark actually got a little supply block. I think lost a couple Ovies. Oh my, the medevacs, the Queens! Knock both of them down. Revenge for all the damage dealt. And the supplies are dead even. Going into the maxed out, max upgrade situation. But Dark has not gotten adrenal glands. That difficult upgrade. So hard to remember if you're not paying attention. There's no real indicator besides your Lings looking like they attack a lot faster. In these sort of scenarios, it's very hard to actually tell the difference. But a very important upgrade when you're making literally hundreds of Zerglings. And one that I'm sure Dark will realize is very lacking at some point and needed to start as soon as possible. Especially considering he has no other tech. It's just Hydra, Lings, and Banes. He has 100 Zerglings on the field. Well, the Widow Mines, I'm sure, will take offense to that. EMP lands, wipes out the Vipers. Will be forced to retreat. Ooh, Banelings. Rolling in, finding some more damage, but Clem kills a base. The Hydras, Lings, and Banes down the center. Actually, at this point, it's mostly Hydras and Banelings, but a few Zerglings in the third base, chasing down another clump of bio. May be able to get some of the SCVs, doesn't opt for it. More Lings into the natural. The reinforcements will cut it off. A Ghost tanking a surprising amount of Banes. It actually takes about 7 Banes to kill a single Ghost. It's not really the efficient choice. Zergling bravely will take down that reactor. Still no adrenal glands out of Dark, and it's definitely having an effect at this point. So many of these fights with 40% more attack speed on the Zerglings would certainly be quite helpful. But lacking that. Oh, Widow Mine. More mines will burrow. Changelings coming out. Snipes. I don't even know what he was sniping, but maybe some overseers. Zerglings coming in again. This might be the moment to realize, if you were ever going to. Zerglings overrunning the third. Widow Mine in position. And Dark 69 Zerglings. Is nice enough for now, but there's the lurker range. Burrow on the way. And for Clem, a fusion core, but almost certainly for advanced ballistics and or Caduceus reactor. Changelings to deal with the Widow Mines, a surprisingly effective get over here. Just wow. Alright, knocks another medevac into the water. But Clem sets up for another attack. The Lings jamming onto the Marines and Marauders. The medevacs are filled up and will evacuate most of these units. And Dark, again, drives the army back. Should be able to clean up the mines. Not Dark. Not A-moving. He has now lurker range done, but no lurkers. Oh my. You just know that mine's gonna get a money shot now. Mm-hmm. It has experience. Another Widow Mine. This isn't the first time. I don't think Dark realized why he wasn't able to expand there, but he will in a moment. The Zerglings. Dark. Oh my god, he finally watched the Zerglings attacking for a few seconds and realizes he didn't have adrenal glands. Oh no. Is that the Liberator from earlier? No, it's a new Liberator. New, exciting new Liberator to murder the Zergs. Oh. Ghost dying. Oh no. That one Widow Mine up to the north side, still alive. Trying to keep an eye out. 13 lurkers on the way. We got high sec auto tracking and building armor. The end game building upgrades for Clem are on the way, as neither player able to take a decisive advantage, as we're still maxed out with huge economies. Liberator sieging up. Not an ideal time to have 13 lurkers and no Hydras with the army. The Liberator count has grown dramatically. Scans, but Dark will just kind of take out one of these bases. Meanwhile, Clem is tearing through everything at the back. Adrenal gland's still not done. There's no dealing with this without Hydras or Banelings. Zerglings will not cut it, no matter how hyped up their glands are. Oh no, the engineering base taken down in orbital as well. A hectic base. 46 SCVs are dead, alongside 2 bases of Clem. But at the same time, Dark lost 2 bases to Clem's army. The income, well, is devastated on both sides. But the fact that Clem has a base in this top right corner is going to make all the difference. Dark checking for a base to the south. There's nothing there, thankfully. He just decided to throw an orbital in here. Adrenal lens is finally done. He still has 72 Zerglings, so it certainly could make an impact. But in a low economy situation, the flexibility of Terran reigns supreme. Assuming that flexibility doesn't burn before he's able to use it. 3 infestors on the way. A bit of desperation and a bit of creativity as Dark is still dealing with a deadly army. 142 army supply for Clem against just 96 for the Zerg. And building another round of Banelings, pretty much as many as he can. Both players completely tapped out. That is a very difficult army. The Widowmine's finding more hits. Snipes a Viper. Dark, he's got the infestors now. He needs them. That army is so clumped up. These are the first he just spotted one. Oh no, he missed the opportunity there, but those 2 infestors on the high ground. But Clem is pre-splitting. Having that 1 infestor unburrowed, I think, was a huge mistake. Oh no, the Viper and the army is here. No, it just dies. It just dies. And before the second one can unburrow and a volley of snipes is thrown out there, Clem is able to take the victory in another hard-fought 630 Zerglings in 18 minutes. But now Clem goes up to match point. Oh, a tough game. But a pretty epic one. Back and forth the whole time. But Clem able to mitigate the damage. I think Dark just missing those key upgrades. And getting caught a little flat-footed on the base trade, which is so easy to do. It looks like, oh, I'm killing his bases, I'm doing great, and then the reason you're doing great is because 40-50 supply of Terran is about to rampage through half of your economy. But almost impossible to make that call before you're already in the thick of it. And Clem is so good at taking advantage of even a small opportunity. And now we see if he can do it one more time. 2-1 Clem going into game 4. Double Rax Reaper and a new layout. Huh. He's on the side of the map where the add-ons, well, are in a bit of an awkward spot. Both sides of the map is a bit of an awkward spot here, but interesting choice. The Reapers are always a threat, and Dark with the late gas again means the Reapers would certainly be a decisive characteristic. The entire intent, well, on one hand, there won't be Zergling speed. So that means the Reapers will have pretty much free reign at the edge of the creep. But on the other hand, there will be a lot more creep than usual because Dark went for that quick third. So there's no real hope of Clem actually taking out that base. So he's going to have a lot of slowlings, and he's going to be losing a lot of slowlings. But at the same time, having access to that third and not getting it delayed is a huge part of having some stability in the early game to deal with any follow-up. He actually canceled, I think, a drone there in order to build an overlord, and just because pretty much anything at this base is going to be dead until he gets significantly more tech or queens out to defend. Ooh. And the grenade martyrdom perk there. Oh. One Reaper taken down, the other one's... Get off! Well. Nice job, Brenda. Don't be condescending! Okay. Roach 1 on the way. 2 more gases quite early on, which could translate directly into some early, we're gonna find the word, aggression. See which way Dark wants to take it. I mean, that's usually the default for him, but... Hellions. Well, there's no Zergling speed, so he's taking full advantage. Kills, just 1 drone. So, this has mostly been dealt with about as well as you could ever hope. 2 more Hellions wandering in. And we'll light up the drones at the 3rd. Roaches pop out. Dodges it with the, extractor. And 20 Zerglings on the way. Does he have speed? Dark. Dark, you didn't get Zergling speed. Oh, last game it was Adrenal Glands. This game it's Zergling speed. Oh, no. Oh, that's kind of an important one. The Zergling's feeling so underloved here by Dark. Which, you know, he's always been more of a Roach Ravager player, so... But at the same time... well... The Banshees continue. There's just 2 Banshees is gonna shut down any of this. Especially with no Zergling speed to follow it up. Sometimes use the Ravagers to break down the door and have the Zerglings come streaming in behind, but... It looks like that is Dark's intent here as well. But the 2 Banshees are patrolling looking for pretty much exactly this. He's very aware of the danger it poses, but didn't check out quite far enough, and that means the Banshees will not be finding it. Now, will there be enough back at home to defend? It seems very likely, as Dark winds up for a big counter. There is a Spore, but Spores are not anti-air so much as a early warning system. The Banshee's just hunting the Queens as well as... I don't think there's even a... There is a lair done. He's just now getting an Overseer. The Ravager's fighting the Marines back at home. He stims. There's 1 siege tank. The Zergling's looking for the wraparound, and now the siege tank helping out a lot as well. The corrosive biles will knock out the tank before it's able to get more, dropping out. And I don't know how he does it, but Dark's still finding an opportunity. Another tank pops out of the factory. Has to dodge. The Banshee's still getting damaged. 2 Banshees. We'll kill several of the drones. Dark up to 68 drones. Throws out some more corrosive bile. And, well, it could have been worse. 1-1's on the way for Clem. Significantly later on, like a minute and a half for Dark. Easy enough to gauge. Terran and Zerg upgrades of comparable level take the same amount of time, so it's pretty linear in that. Trying to take down the... Who forgot to take down the rocks? Oh, remember back in the day when we could fly? You shut up, Lucille. You shut up. We said we wouldn't talk about that. Not since the war. The Banshee's almost able to take out the hatchery on their own, which will leave it as quite a liability as time goes on. One is completed for Clem. Combat shield's still pretty far off. Didn't actually notice the hatchery coming up, but that 4th base looking like quite a target. And then, when it's finally taken down, it'll look like a Kmart. Dead. Like and subscribe, my fellow Americans. Wow. Okay, the Banshee's just having a field day. And would you die already? Finally. The other one, almost out of energy. Will, really? So greedy. Comes in and gets another creep tumor. But Clem keeping the pressure. He's got 2-2 started. He's got that 4th command center on the way, but Dark is still mining from the gold. And he does have a 5th hatchery to the south because it seems kind of inevitable that the gold base will die He's just trying to get as much out of it as possible before Clem takes it out. Siege tanks closing in. And he may be in range of the hatchery itself momentarily. Whips out some corrosive bile, scattered across the tanks. The Roach Ravager doing a pretty good job so far. But the Marines are holding their ground. Knocks out another tank. But the hatchery under fire. The Queen's coming down to defend. Corrosive biles drive back the Marines for now. Hatchery takes some more hits. Supplies are even. The Queen's taking the hits. 8 drones dead, as he didn't pull them away from the base quite in time. Banshee finally taken down. 10 more roaches, but Clem keeping the pressure on. Those siege tanks finding so much damage. Another wave of corrosive bile. He needs to have at least 3 Ravagers. Knocks down a medevac with it. And Clem's struggling to actually find the engagement here to take out the hatchery. The Queen's coming down. And Dark, well, it's looking okay, but he didn't quite kill that tank. There's another tank back there. And ooh, the moment he steps off the creep is the moment that Clem turns the tide. There's only 1 Ravager left. And Dark may have gone a bit too far here, as with just 1 Ravager, Clem, both sides thinning out dramatically, but that means it's much easier for the Terrans to pick an advantageous fight, especially since the Queen count is down to 0, which, well, a revolutionary idea from the French to eliminate the Queens entirely, but the Marines are holding their ground, but Tutu's done. Dark taps it out, and Clem takes a 3-1 victory. It wasn't easy, it wasn't quick, but I think a decisive one from the world champion, showing that he has just a step ahead of Dark, who was his only victory that very odd game on Dynasty. An exciting one, a dramatic one, but not something he was quite able to replicate on significantly more standard style maps. So Clem, another decisive Terran versus Zerg victory. And I think a fun series as well. And hopefully, if you got the means and motivation, it'd be awesome for you to check out Patreon or YouTube membership. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free, at least for now. And thank you to the big LiuLiu Cup for sending me the games and putting on this amazing tournament. Really appreciate it. And awesome to see some more grassroots community effort. Make sure to check it out live if you have an opportunity in the future, as I think they'll be having more as well. Well, looking forward to it. And otherwise, I hope I made your day just a little bit better. I'll see you next time. Good luck, have fun. Stay chill.